final girl is the last woman standing in a slasher film who lives to tell the tale. Versions of final girls can be found at the end of almost every slasher film dating back to the early 70s, but this infamous movie trope wouldn't be a trope without rules.
What rules? You don't... Jesus Christ, you don't know the rules? There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie.
He's right. The final girl is usually the typical good girl. No sex, drugs, alcohol, or any behavior which is morally deviant. And although she does not have to fulfill all of these requirements, she's usually resourceful enough to outsmart the killer herself.
The virgin's death is optional as long as it's last. Main thing is that she, suffers.
That she did.
The term final girl was not coined until 1992 in a book by Carol J. Clover called Men, Women, and Chainsaws. She argued that horror films are designed to side viewers with the victims, not the killers. Clover saw the final girl as an empowered woman saving herself. She becomes who viewers come to relate to, regardless of gender. In Black Christmas, Jess is strong, smart, and resourceful. In the film, she is pregnant and planning on having an abortion. She's one of the first final girls, and yet she defies all the rules of what a final girl should be.
Yes, the caller is in the house. The calls are coming from the house.
1974's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre introduced Sally, who escapes a family of cannibals after being tortured by them and having all her friends killed. She's one of the most active final girls in early history of slasher films. However, Laurie Strode in the 1978 Halloween is often credited as the first official final girl. She is the one who established most of the now-known rules. She fights back and has become one of the most iconic final girls in horror history. The 80s brought Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, which also introduced intelligent final girls who, rather than being saved, fought their way to the end. The slasher genre was getting overcrowded, so it was up to director Wes Craven to switch things up, and in 1996, he did just that. Scream was the first big meta horror film, meaning it's completely self-aware and it acknowledges the tropes and cliches, all while turning them on their head, and introducing a new era of final girls.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Oh, come on, you know I don't watch that shit.
Why not? Too scared?
No, it's just what's the point? They're all the same. Some stupid killer stalking some big-breasted girl who can't act, who's always running up the stairs when she should be going out the front door. It's insulting.
The film almost immediately makes her face her own cliche when the door is locked and she has to run up the stairs, creating a parallel sequence with the original Halloween. Sidney Prescott is the perfect example of this style of new final girl, which is rarely, if ever, sexualized, but rather she is praised for her strength, and in the coming installations of Scream, Sidney remains a fighter. When 2018's Halloween was released, Laurie Strode officially joined Sidney Prescott in this new survivalist group.
Do you know that I pray every night that he would escape?
What the hell did you do that for?
So I can kill him.
When their killers continue to haunt them, they must do everything they can to survive, and although they are traumatized by the events of their past, they survive by making them possibly the most badass women in film. Final girls are the ones the audience is rooting for. We survive vicariously through them. You may think that they exist as a result of the male gaze, or you may see them as survivors who triumph at the hands of killers. Regardless of where you stand, one thing everyone can agree on is that final girls are changing. They're becoming stronger, smarter, and more independent. Future generations of horror fanatics will have plenty of badass women to look up to.
Careful. This is the moment when the supposedly dead killer comes back to life for one last scare.